Hey everybody, good morning. This is part 2 of homemade yeast rolls. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to give you the ingredients and the measurements and the instructions. And if you hear something in the background, my husband has went out and spent our money on a bunch of lottery tickets because he is determined to win $1 million. And he's sitting over here smiling, and I'm going to try not to laugh at him. What?
It's going to cost me $2 million to win that million.
He says it's going to cost him $2 million to win $1 million because he spends so much in lottery tickets. Oh my God, y'all! My husband has a problem. I'm going to have to do something with him. So anyway, you're going to start out with 3 1/4 cups of sifted bread flour. Now, bread flour is also known as strong flour. You're going to separate it. You're going to separate it out to one bowl. You're going to have 2 1/4 cup, 2 1/4 cup of sifted bread flour in one bowl, and then 1 cup in a separate bowl. Now, you'll understand why we're doing that here in just a minute. You're going to need 1 cup of room temperature milk, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt. You're going to get your starter that we made earlier that's nice and cold. You're going to need 1 egg, which we will be beating, and then 1/4 cup of melted butter. And this is the butter that I make homemade. So what we're going to do in the bowl with the 2 1/4 cups of bread flour, also known as strong flour, we're going to add the yeast, 1 tablespoon of yeast, and then you're going to add, get all of it, and then you're going to add your 1 teaspoon of salt. Please keep the salt and the yeast on opposite sides of the bowl because the salt will retard the yeast and cause your bread not to rise, and that's you do not want. So we're going to leave those on opposite sides of the bowl, and then we're going to put in our 1/4 cup of sugar. Just put it directly in the middle, separating the two. Now, in a glass container, you're going to add your 1 cup of milk and your 1/4 cup of melted butter. Go ahead and stir those till you get them good and combined. And then we're going to whisk our egg so that it's lightly beaten. We're going to add our egg to this milk mixture. And then we are going to add our starter. See, here's the starter, nice and thick, creamy consistency. Got a lot of dishes to wash. I always do when I cook everything homemade, but it's so worth it. Now, with your whisk, you're just going to combine this entire mixture. We are going to, even though it's a little wet, we're going to combine everything. We're going to add this and just get it all nice and incorporated. I guarantee you no one will ever be able to top you if you go by my recipe. I'm just getting a spoon so that I can stir this. Now we're going to be kneading by hand because that's what I do. I knead by hand, and it's just better. It's just better. And then you add your one cup remaining to this mixture. This is where it gets a little bit thick and hard to stir. So go ahead and add your 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now we're just going to simply knead. This is going to be a wet dough starting out at first. And I have sifted, add a little bit more of that olive oil. I have sifted here some extra bread flour for kneading purposes only. So I'm going to just take by the little handfuls and I'm going to start kneading because this is a really wet dough and I'm going to take it out of the bowl because I really want to get it properly kneaded. These are just the little pieces that we're going to incorporate. Even though this is a long process, it's so worth it. If you want to make this for your dinner, then you need to do what I do. And if I don't have to work that day, if I'm off work, or you can always make these the night before, even if you've got a busy day the next day, but you really need to get up and make these first thing in the morning because the rise time is very long. They have to have a certain amount of rise time. And you're just adding a little bit of flour as you need it so that you can knead, because like I said, this is a very wet dough. Now, I'm going to go get a little bit more olive oil because that's what this original recipe called for, was olive oil to help you knead. But I found that using the flour just really works better. It really does. And it does not take away the integrity of the bread dough, and it doesn't take away the taste. So, but I am going to add a little bit more olive oil too, because this is a very wet dough. That's why you have to have some on the side. I have about 1.5 cups sifted just for kneading purposes only. So we're going to knead, and we're going to knead for a little bit. And I'll be right back. Let me get some more olive oil. That was the olive oil. The 2 tablespoons is what you have to put inside the bread, to put in the dough, because it just gives it a really nice flavor. But we're going to add a little more as needed. Put that right there. So we're going to add a little more as needed. And I'm just going to just pour it over here. There we go. Perfect. And then, you know, you can save if you have any left over. Now, that really does make kneading this sticky dough a lot easier than even the flour. But I like using the flour too. Now, you must knead this for at least 10 minutes. Some people need a little bit longer. The longer you knead, I will tell you this, the better your rolls turn out. Now, this is a little bit wet, so I'm just going to add just a little bit of flour just to help me along the way. And we're going to let this rise. Let's see. And then after we knead it, I'm going to give you the exact. We're going to have to let it rise for 1.5 hours. So just before we even turn it into rolls, it's got to rise 1.5 hours. So I'm really glad that I got up early this morning, and I'm glad that we're having Sunday dinner about 5 because I need the time. So, and that's why I started last night, go ahead and preparing some things, is because I knew that I was going to have a long rise time with these. But the longer they rise, also the better they taste. So, and my hands are clean. I washed them, sterilized them, you know the drill. I got so many bread recipes that I can't wait to share with you. You're going to love it. This is such a good good yeast roll recipe, you guys and gals. I'm telling you, you're going to be, if you just be patient and watch all the parts and see how I do it, you're going to be glad that you did. Because these are a hit every time I make them. I have people request them. I mean, they're just that good. And as you knead, it gets harder because you're loosening the gluten that's natural, that is a natural product in flour. So, and then after you knead a while, then it gets easier because it's loosened a little bit. And that is what gives you the spongy, light, fluffy yeast roll that you're going to get with this recipe. Now, it's starting to sticky, and I know that I'm good. A lot of people do the window test. You can do that if you want to, but with this recipe, it's not necessary. It's just necessary that you knead for longer than 2 or 3 minutes, at least 10 minutes. Now, we're going to just roll this into a nice smooth ball. And we're going to take the rest of our olive oil that I got, and we're just going to pour it all in this bowl. And I'm just going to oil it, and I'm going to let this rise. And then after it rises, I'm going to bring you back and show you what else we're going to do. I'm out of breath. Thing will kick your butt, I'm telling you. Kneading. But you need to knead. Perfect. Plop. And it's okay if that is a little juicy. Just take your dough and just rub it all over there. And I'm going to set my timer. I'm going to cover this up with some paper towel. That's what I like to do. I like to use clean paper towel so that there's no, I always worry if I use a cloth, will it have lint? I don't want lint on my food. So we're going to let this rest for 1.5 hours, and I'm going to bring you back for part 3. This is part 2 of homemade yeast rolls. And I'm telling you, if you follow these instructions and this recipe precisely, you are going to make the best. And these also make delish sliders. I know that because my husband, he loves sliders, okay? And he's a meat eater. I'm not. And one day I made these, and we cut them in half after I baked them and everything. And what did we put in them? Little hamburgers? Or was it something else? Or was it roast beef? Or okay, it was hamburger. So I made little hamburger patties, and he put cheese on it and whatever else he put on it. And we baked them in the oven, and him and my son and some of my son's friends went nuts. And I have purposely not done it since, because I swear if I do, they'll have me baking this constantly, because that's how good they were. So they make great sliders. They're great for just simple dinner rolls. They also make really good sandwiches, for your lunch and stuff. So if you make this, if you have any left over, which I doubt, but if you do, they also make great sandwiches for the next day. And so you could pack your lunch. You know what I'm saying? That's what my husband does. If we have any left over, he will grab a couple of them and make him a little slider. And that's all, that's all he wants. He loves it. So, all right, y'all. I am going to let this rise. And I'm going to leave it here undisturbed for 1.5 hours. I'm going to come back with part 3. This is part 2. And that will give me time to get some dishes washed and to get some other things done to prepare for my Sunday dinner. I love all y'all. Peace and love. See you in part 3.